We finally know where the Templars hid the Holy Grail. For centuries, the Holy Grail has been history's ultimate mystery, a sacred relic, chased by kings, crusaders, and explorers. But what if the Knights Templar, its legendary guardians, didn't hide it in some dusty vault in Europe or a forgotten crypt in the Holy Land? What if they took it somewhere no one thought they could go, across an ocean they weren't supposed to have crossed? A trail of compelling legends and a few genuinely strange discoveries have pointed treasure hunters to a location that's been hiding in plain sight for generations, a place we can finally explore. To even begin to understand where the Grail might be, you first have to understand its guardians, the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and the Temple of Solomon, or as we know them, the Knights Templar. Founded around 1119, their job was simple: protect Christian pilgrims on the treacherous roads to Jerusalem. As a thank you, the King of Jerusalem gave them a headquarters on the most sacred and mysterious piece of real estate in the world, the Temple Mount. And it's right here that the legend kicks into high gear. For 75 years, the Templars lived on the site of Solomon's Temple. Soon, whispers started spreading that they weren't just standing guard, they were digging. Stories claimed they went deep beneath the holy mountain and found relics that had been lost for 1,000 years. Relics like the Ark of the Covenant and, of course, the Holy Grail. Over the next 2 centuries, the Templars became one of the most powerful organizations in the world. They were an elite fighting force, sure, but they were also the world's first multinational bankers, creating a system of credit that made them incredibly rich. They had land, castles, and a huge fleet of ships. Their power was immense, their wealth was legendary, and their list of enemies was getting longer. And at the very top of that list was a man who owed them a fortune, King Philip IV of France. The end, when it came, was sudden and brutal. On Friday, October 13th, 1307, King Philip ordered the arrest of every Templar in France. They were accused of heresy, thrown in dungeons, and tortured into giving false confessions. The mighty order was about to be erased. Philip planned to seize their legendary treasure to cancel his debts and line his own pockets. But when his soldiers stormed the Paris Preceptory, the Templars' main treasury, they found it was nearly empty. The gold, the silver, the priceless documents, and any sacred relics, all gone. The story goes that just before the raid, Templar loyalists loaded the treasure onto wagons and secretly took it to their naval base at La Rochelle. From there, a fleet of 18 ships reportedly sailed out into the Atlantic, vanishing from the pages of European history. This is the core of the Templar mystery. Where did that fleet go? For a long time, people figured they just went to Scotland or Portugal, where the Templar order managed to survive under a new name. And those are decent theories, but they don't quite explain the tantalizing clues that point to a much bolder journey. A journey that would rewrite the history of exploration. A journey west. Could the Templars have crossed the Atlantic a century and a half before Columbus? It sounds crazy, but some of the things people have found over the years are hard to ignore. There's the Newport Tower in Rhode Island, a strange stone structure that looks a lot like Templar-built chapels in Europe. Then there's the Westford Knight, a faint carving on a rock in Massachusetts that some say depicts a 14th century knight, complete with a sword and shield. Now, while mainstream historians have offered more conventional colonial explanations for these sites, for believers, they're breadcrumbs on a hidden trail. It's also critical to be clear that the connection between the Templars and the Holy Grail doesn't come from their historical records. It was created for the great chivalric romances of the Middle Ages by poets and writers. Mainstream historians agree there is no real proof the Templars ever had the Cup of Christ. The story of their escape with a vast treasure is likewise built on legends and confessions made under torture. But legends this powerful can make people do incredible things. The theory goes that the surviving Templars, maybe with help from Scottish nobles like Earl Henry Sinclair, used their advanced knowledge of navigation to set up a secret colony in the New World. And if they were going to hide their most sacred treasure, they wouldn't just stick it in a hole. They'd create a vault of unbelievable complexity, an underground fortress to protect their secret forever. They'd create what we now know as the Money Pit, on a tiny island off the coast of Nova Scotia, Oak Island. For over 200 years, Oak Island has hosted the world's longest and most frustrating treasure hunt. The legend began in 1795, when a young man found a strange circular depression in the ground. He and his friends started digging, and the story of what they found is baffling. Every 10 feet, they supposedly hit a platform of oak logs. Deeper down, they reported finding layers of charcoal, putty, and coconut fiber. At 90 feet, they claimed to have found a stone slab covered in strange symbols. But the most incredible part of the pit was its supposed defense mechanism. Early accounts claim that the builders engineered a series of booby-trapped flood tunnels connected to the ocean. Dig too deep, and the whole shaft would fill with seawater. If true, this wasn't the work of pirates. This was the work of brilliant engineers. For decades, the Oak Island mystery was just a local legend. But in recent years, the long-running treasure hunt on the island has turned up some strange finds that have reignited the Templar theory. DNA tests on bone fragments found deep in the Money Pit area yielded intriguing, though not conclusive, results. The analysis suggested one person was of European descent, while the other had Middle Eastern ancestry, a mix that, to theorists, perfectly matched the international makeup of the Knights Templar. Then came another tantalizing artifact, a simple lead cross found at a spot called Smith's Cove. Researchers involved in the hunt claim its shape is similar to Templar-era designs, and that tests on the lead point to a mine in France that was once a Templar source. While these findings are far from settled academic proof, they are powerful pieces of the puzzle for those on the hunt. Some researchers now believe the entire island is a kind of map. One theory suggests that large boulders were deliberately placed to form a giant cross on the landscape, pointing directly to the Money Pit. The theory holds that the Templars brought not just their gold, but their spiritual treasure, the Holy Grail itself, to this small island, building an underground labyrinth to protect it until the world was ready. The search on Oak Island continues, and the evidence fueling the Templar theory is compelling but highly debated. What do you think? Is this all just a fantastic legend, or could the Holy Grail be buried beneath the waters of Oak Island? Let us know your theories in the comments below. And if you want to join us on more deep dives into history's greatest mysteries, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. The mystery of Oak Island is far from being solved. Every season of digging brings more questions than answers. The theory connecting it all to the Knights Templar remains controversial and is dismissed by most mainstream historians. There's no smoking gun, no definitive proof. However, the convergence of the legend, the engineering accounts of the Money Pit, the discovery of a lead cross with possible French origins, and the DNA results pointing to Europe and the Middle East all weave together into a tantalizing narrative. It's a story that suggests the Holy Grail isn't in a European vault, but waiting in a booby-trapped, water-filled chamber on a small island in North America. We may not have the Grail in our hands, but after centuries of searching, we might finally know where the trail of legend leads. The map is there. We just have to finish reading it.